Underneath the brush in the heart of the city sits a headstone from an African American cemetery dating back to the 1800s. Flash forward about 125 years, and a park, a neighborhood, and part of the National Zoo now sit on the once 7-acre burial site. In the last century, some of the graves have been moved and reburied. Mary Belcher is one of the local Washington, D.C. residents who teamed up with Howard University to preserve this cemetery's history.
What remains are fragments of what was here 160, 170 years ago. But it's important for us to acknowledge the presence of what was here before and the people who created this cemetery.
More than 8,400 people were buried in the Mount Pleasant Plains Cemetery, which operated from 1870 to 1890. The Colored Union Benevolent Society bought the land from John Quincy Adams' family. The Mount Pleasant Plains Cemetery is one of the many African American cemeteries from the post-Reconstruction era in D.C. and around the country that have been paved over by time and change. In the 20th century, developers built over Mount Pleasant Plains and destroyed many of the graves.
We don't all know where our grandparents were buried, but we'd like to think they're buried in a spot where they're not going to be disrupted by bobcat tractors and apartment buildings going up. I think it's a matter of personal responsibility that we need to take for the people who were here before.
There are countless former burial grounds throughout the D.C. area. Some of the other locations to visit are Section 27 of Arlington National Cemetery, where members of the U.S. colored troops are buried along with freed slaves, and the Mount Zion Cemetery in Georgetown.